Hello there. Today I will be ranking all of our players from who I think is most likely to win, to least likely, in a tier list. This will be based on how their game is looking going into next week, their potential long-term prospects, and how I think the edit is factoring into their chances to win or go far. This ranking is my own personal opinion, and will probably change massively from week to week, but these are my thoughts after episode 9. I also want to point out that tiers are not ordered in any particular way. 2 players left this week, which means all of a sudden we are down to the final 8 in the game. 2 tribal councils this week in small groups has offered us a different insight than normal weeks to give us new information on how these players are playing. The first player to leave this week is Naseer. Nasir was unfortunately blindsided by Shan and Ricard with the vote, leaving the game with an idol in his pocket. Some could criticize Nasir for this, but he had no reason to play the idol on this vote. It's just unfortunate for him that this happened. Ultimately, Nasir didn't make strong enough connections to stay in the game, and was too big of a threat compared to Heather, so he needed protection. I really liked Nasir this season, and I will be sad to see him go. The second player to leave this week is Evvie, who was put in an unfortunate situation this tribal council. With Xander winning immunity, Evvie was the obvious target of the Danny, Deshawn, and Liana trio. Sadly, I kind of saw this coming, as I placed Evvie in the lowest tier last week, as the Ace tribe has been on the outs for a few weeks now. I enjoyed Evvie's presence on the season as a whole, and will be sad to see them gone as well. D tier this week is for players who I see have very little chance of winning, and will likely leave the very game soon. First in the D tier this week I have Xander, who drops from the C tier from last week. I realize this could be a controversial placing, as Xander has a lot of fans, but unfortunately his place in the game is not looking good. Evvie leaving this week is a potential ally of Xander's gone, meaning he has very little options left in the game moving forward. His only way to gain ground in the majority alliance at this point is his connection through Liana, who clearly does not trust him and wants him gone. The only way he can get into a good position is if the game flips itself on its head, which isn't impossible, but will take some good gameplay from those on the outs. The best path for victory for Xander now is to find idols and win immunity challenges, which is a tough road, but we've seen it happen before, and he does have an idol that can keep him safe already. C tier this week is for players who I either see very little chance of winning the game, or could leave very soon. First in the C tier this week is Erika, who remains in the C tier from last week. Erika is in a tough position at this point, and is on the outs of the majority alliance, making her an easy target in coming votes. She does, however, have some upside in the game currently. She has a close ally in Heather, who voted with her and looks willing to work with her in the future. We also know that Ricard and Shan worked with Erika at the last tribal council, meaning that they could be willing to work with her in the future. While Shan does not trust Erika, if Erika can make inroads with Ricard, she could find herself in a powerful position in the game, but this scenario is unlikely at this point, hence why she is low on the tier list. It's looking unlikely that Erika is able to win at this point, but crazy things can happen in Survivor. Next in the C tier is Heather, who I have rising from the D tier from last week. Heather, like Erika and Xander, is currently on the bottom of the tribe, but I think Heather has the potential to last deep into the game by virtue of not being a large threat. We saw this episode that Heather was able to stay over Nasir because her threat level is low, which means others will be targeted over her, potentially even members of the majority alliance. Heather has a solid ally in Erika, and could find new allies like Ricard to work with in the future if she can last long enough to put her in the D tier. However, Heather could make it far, but I see her as a very low chance to win, which makes me worried for her, but time will tell in this game. B tier this week is for players who I think have a good chance to win, but have some flaws in their game that are holding them back. First in the B tier this week is Deshawn, who remains in the B tier from last week. Deshawn is in a solid position again this week, being a part of the majority alliance of 5 consisting of himself, Shan, Liana, Danny, and Ricard. However, tensions within the group have been rising, especially between Deshawn and Shan. If Deshawn is planning on taking out Shan, he should try to act soon, or it might prove too late in the game, resulting in him being voted out. This possibility is what keeps Deshawn from rising, as I can see other players in the alliance prevailing over him farther down the line. However, if Deshawn can take out Shan and take control of the alliance, he could run that alliance to the end and win the game. Next in the B tier is Liana, who drops from the B tier from last week. Liana, like Deshawn, is in a solid position in the game by being a member of the majority alliance, but she has different flaws that are holding her from being higher on the tier list. Liana's alliances is very fractured at this point, giving her less options moving forward beyond her immediate alliance, giving her less power than her allies. There is also talk of trying to target Liana to weaken Shan, which is not good for her should someone in the alliance decide to work with the outsiders, which is bad for her in the short term. However, in the long run I can see Liana being perceived more as a minion of Shan's, giving her a tough time to gain respect and win votes from the jury at the end. If Liana breaks that negative perception, she can win, but until then I have my doubts. A tier this week is for players who aren't looking like they will go home soon, and have solid chances to win the game. First in the A tier this week is Danny, who retains his A tier ranking from last week. Danny is someone who by all accounts should be a huge target, and be looked at every tribal council, but he is not for some reason. Despite being a professional athlete, Danny is able to get through these tribal councils, and is also in a strong position in the game on top of that. Nasir leaving is something that Danny wanted last episode, so he has one less enemy to worry about, and he has many connections in the game to move forward with. The only reason that Danny is not higher on the tier list is because I worry about him being seen as a physical threat late into the game, but he still has a great chance overall regardless. Next in the A tier this week is Ricar, who moves up from the B tier from last week. Ricar, like others, is in a solid spot in the game by nature of being in the majority alliance of 5, meaning he is most likely safe at least in the short term. While he and Shan do argue, they are ultimately close allies who work together, which gives him more safety in the game. The main reason Ricar rises this week is because of his great gameplay with the vote. He was able to turn the target away from Heather onto Nasir, getting rid of an idol in the process. This also means he can gain trust with Erika and Heather future, giving him more options in the future should things with the majority go south. I do worry about his future with Shan, but Ricar is looking like a great contender to win at this point. S tier this week is for players who are in great positions, aren't likely to leave anytime soon, and also have a great chance to win. Once again, our sole S tier this week is Shan, who has retained her S tier ranking the whole season so far. At this point, the game is looking like Shan's to lose, as she is in the best position in the game in my opinion. She is very close with both Liana and Ricard, which are both powerful allies in their own right in the game. She is also a part of the majority as a whole, further protecting her. Those that are worried about Shan in the game are targeting Liana over her, meaning she is safe for a good while at minimum. She is perceived as a great player, which means at Final Tribal I can easily see her beating everyone, so she does not have to worry about who she can take to the end. She has some slight problems in her game, notably her arguments with Deshawn and Ricard, but I fully expect her to come out on top in those respects. Shan has the highest chance of winning at this point, and it would be crazy to see her taken out. There is my current tier list of who I think is most likely to win and make it far. Keep in mind that these are just my opinions, and I am unspoiled this season, and this is very subject to change. We will see if anyone else will be able to rise to the S tier, and I am interested to see how the rest of the season will shake out. Thanks for watching. This has been Gold Card.